Save the Semantics, episode 211. It is May 16th, 2023. My name is Myro. This is the podcast where I ramble on for a bit about some shit. It is Tuesday today. So I'm recording this once again a little earlier in the week. Just because I have a lot of things to talk about. Not a lot, but I have some things that I want to talk about. And you're probably not going to guess what it's going to be. You know, you're probably not have no idea. Based on previous episodes, you have no idea. It's going to be completely out of the blue. Let's get some other not so important shit out of the way, you know, so we can move on. So the NBA playoffs are over, right? No, they're basically over. I mean, the Warriors got eliminated by the Lakers last week. And now I don't really have a ton of incentive on watching, you know what I mean? I think, you know, all things considered, this season was kind of, you know, it ended sort of the way the season went. Very much a reflection of the, you know, how Game 6 ended was kind of a reflection of really the entire season, to be honest. Like, it was sort of, it was really it was a lot of ups and downs, and quite a lot of downs for sure, too. You know, we really only picked up the pace towards the end of the season, and then we managed to secure a playoff position, and we got to the first round, and we had a decent, I don't even really want to say favorable, but, you know, a good matchup with the Kings, where it really could have gone either way, and we managed to pull it off because Curry went for 50. Like, a lot of things went right for us, in a lot of regards. And then, you know, our series ended in kind of a disappointing fashion, losing by nearly 30 points in the last game. I think it's not the outcome that I necessarily anticipated, but it's not shocking either. It's sort of like, yeah, I think this is kind of how things were sort of, you know, in this kind of trajectory, I guess. So, it's all kind of a manner of just regrouping and trying to find the things that worked this season and take care of things that didn't work this season. There's going to be a lot of, I feel there's going to be a good amount of changes next year, you know what I mean? So I'm kind of anticipating that. I feel that we'll see, man. I will see if Poole is able to make a bit of a comeback, you know, season, because I think that the added pressure of him on this contract and just the fact that he severely underperformed kind of leaves a sour taste in, you know, everyone's mouths. So we'll see if he is able to live up to that expectation. I don't know if he will, because I feel like his future with the team is kind of up in the air now. He severely underperformed throughout this year's playoffs. He did not play up to his expectations even in the regular season, and that sort of just carried forward. So I really want the best for him. I really hope that he's able to improve. But he's got a lot to improve on, you know what I mean? I think things can change, you know what I mean? I think any player is capable of making changes, of making adjustments. It's just that it's been kind of difficult to see really any progression that he's made from last year where he, you know, played very much out of his, you know, he was on I forgot what kind of contract he was. He was just like on a incredibly minor contract. And then he was able to produce, you know, so much for the team and, you know, help them, you know, in the postseason. So I think that just, having him on this contract that we put him on this year, I think sort of inflated expectations for sure. You know what I mean? Like, I don't necessarily think it's his fault necessarily. It's just, he was offered a contract. He's like, fuck yeah, I'm going to get this bag. And he got it, you know what I mean? So I don't know. It's kind of up in the air. So I'm just going to I'm going to be optimistic for the future. I'm also not super down either. I think it's just a, rocky season and a pretty rocky end to it all. So it is kind of what it is. And you just gotta move forward. For the rest of the playoffs, I don't really have any stock in any of these other teams. You know what I mean? I want to see the Nuggets win. I want to see Jokic win, and I want to see him prove all these people wrong. I think he's an incredible talent. I think he's undeniably one of the best players in the league, and I think people are still underrating him to a certain level. I think there's still a lot of disrespect. You know what I mean? So I think that I hope he's able to, get to the finals, and hopefully the Nuggets win it all. I think they're the one team that I really sort of am. I kind of invest. I'm not even that invested, but they're the one team that I would be cool seeing win the title this year. So best of luck to them. Anyways, moving forward, let's talk Tears of the Kingdom. So I'm probably, again, like I mentioned last week, most likely I'm gonna mark the titles of these episodes where I talk about the game with like a spoiler tag, like in the title itself, just in case anyone who's listening is like, I really don't want to, I really don't want to engage. I want to experience the game for myself. So I'll probably just do that, just in case there are people out there that don't want to hear about things that have happened or things that are in the game itself. I talked briefly about, kind of my first impressions and getting past like the first, tutorial stage and that sort of thing. And I think I sort of didn't really touch upon the opening itself. I thought which was pretty interesting. I really liked how they took kind of the direction of this game and kind of setting up, the plot in motion. It's very different from, other conventional Zelda games where you're asleep or some shit and someone wakes you up. Like, it's a little different from that. Here you're very much taking an active role. You're with Zelda. You're exploring kind of the depths of Hyrule and that sort of thing. I like that. I like that you're already being, you're being active in your role. Like, you're not really, you have all of your. It's assumed that you have all of your hearts. You have your full stamina gauge. You have all of your equipment. You have, the Hyrule, the champion's gear, everything like that. You have all of that equipped. And, it's sort of like, okay, this is a sequel. It's setting itself up right after, the base game, or, Breath of the Wild. So you kind of have, you already have those sort of expectations. And now you are kind of you are the hero of Hyrule, really, right? So you're already taking kind of an active approach in that manner, right? You're playing an active role within the story. You and Zelda are the ones exploring the depths. I know it's not that complicated. I kind of like that, because a lot of the time it's sort of like when someone wakes you up, it's like, oh, then you're kind of incentivized to then do an action, but it's like, no, you're already in it. You know what I mean? So I sort of like how the story in the game starts off in that way. I am also I'm pretty intrigued with kind of how the story beats are going to go. I'm trying I'm trying my best with this game to sort of follow the story in the best way that I can, where it's sort of where I want to follow the narrative in the way and in which the manner that the kind of the the writers sort of anticipated. You know what I mean? Where it sort of makes sense why you go to this location first, and then you go to this location, and then you talk to this person, right? I'm trying my best to sort of carve that out. But, right now I really just did kind of the very beginning sort of story, even though, like, I'll get into it. But I unlocked, like, a huge, like, story thing, like, way earlier than I expected, and it was, like, a huge surprise and everything like that. So I'll get into that a little bit more. So yeah, that's kind of the way I want to approach this story in the best way that I can. Sometimes I can't help it. Like, it's just like, okay, I'm just going to trigger this story moment. And it has happened where it's just like, okay, I just have to kind of embrace that. But I do want to, despite how open-ended this game is, and despite the fact that you can really approach it in any way, shape, or form you want to, in regards to the story, I do want to kind of try to follow the narrative in the way that it's kind of more naturally put forth. You know what I mean? So, whatever direction, certain characters are pushing me towards, I will try to do that when I really want to focus on the story, I guess. But for right now, I think exploration, just dicking around, just finding things, discovering the world and everything like that's kind of really been that's really what I've been doing. And it's been an incredible experience so far. I'm trying to think back when I first played Breath of the Wild, like, 4 or 5 years ago. And it really is kind of giving me that sense of like, wow, this is incredible. But it's just to such a different scale. Like, they really tripled the scale of Breath of the Wild in this one, which is incredible. Like, how do you even do that, right? Because with Breath of the Wild, really just the sense of like finding all of these new places and discovering that, oh, there's like a shrine here, there's like these Koroks, and just the concept of you being able to pursue the story in whatever shape or form you want to was just such a breath of fresh air for me, I feel. You know what I mean? Because like most Zelda games are pretty linear in that sense, right? Like, you could tackle you're really just sort of following the story in a single trajectory, which is, there's nothing wrong with, of course. Like I talked about, like last time I talked about, all of my favorite, Zelda games and my experiences and whatnot. So I don't have a problem with linearity. It's just such a different, it was just so different from what I had sort of expected and anticipated. So it was such a new experience when I first played through that game. And there was just this like sense of like wonder and shit like that no other really, like, within the scope of this genre of games, like no other game has really filled me with that sense of like, wow, this is like, I'm like discovering things, I'm like doing all of these things, I'm figuring out, certain physics and game physics and how that works and how that applies to the world, and figuring out certain puzzles and that sort of thing. That was just like a whole, that it was just part of that whole experience of playing that game, and it was incredible. And no other game has really filled that kind of feeling for me, of the sense of like wonder of playing this game, of playing a game where it's like, wow, this is just like, this is like a video game. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really in that shit. I'm really like doing things. I'm really like, fucking things up. I'm really like doing all of these like crazy things that you can't really do in real life, and I'm discovering these fantastical worlds, that sort of thing. Right? It's just that feeling of wonder, and I'm really getting that so far with this game so far, because I've had so many moments where I've just been like, dude, what the fuck, no way. Bro, no way. Like, that's just I've had several moments where I've had that kind of experience. Like, this is a crazy game, dude. This is a crazy fucking game. Like, I've barely messed with like the Ultra Hand and building vehicles and stuff. I've tried my hand at it. I'm not very good. But just just the other stuff is incredible as well. So I jotted down. I've jotted down some notes while I've played the game, and so I want to just kind of talk about some of these moments. Again, it's going to be very spoiler heavy, so I'm going to put it in the title. So if you are listening, again, this is kind of like final warning before I kind of get into the details. One of the biggest things I would say for this game, and kind of like what I've discovered, and I'm sure this is, a similar case with a lot of other people, is discovering that there's like a third section of the game, the depths. We knew going forward, from the trailers and the Aonuma's presentation, that there was going to be a sky. We sort of knew that going forward. We were like, okay, so there's going to be, the 2 levels. There's going to be the sky, and then, of course, there's going to be the land of Hyrule. That's pretty cool. That's pretty fucking cool. Excited to see how that works out. Excited to explore the sky, right? And then you find out that there's an underground section, and it's fucking massive. It's like the size of the land of Hyrule, basically. It's incredible. It's just so wild to me that they kept this shit like kind of hidden for the most part. Like, there was speculation from a lot of people about there being caves and stuff, and I stumbled across some caves. I was like, oh, this is really cool. Somewhat earlier on, right? Maybe like 5-ish hours in, I was like, oh, I've jumped into this like well, and there's like an underground cave here, and there's like this little like dungeony section. Oh, this is really cool. This is a lot of fun. Just kind of dick around, and you fight these like monkey enemies, and that sort of thing, and that's like a pretty fun little discovery that I made. But then you go into the fucking depths of Hyrule, and you just find shit. You just find this whole space. It's massive. It's incredible. It's like, it's a giant cavernous, and there's just some creepy stuff going on down there. Everything is dark. You have to light your way through it. It's really, you're really going just like spelunking, you know what I mean? Like, it really feels like you're in these like caves, and you're just discovering things for the first time, and you're like uncovering these lost mining facilities from thousands and thousands of years ago. You're finding these lost civilizations, like these statues, and you're like, what is this? This looks like a Zora. This looks like I don't know, this looks like this doesn't look really human or anything like that. And there's just so much more. That you got these like kind of corrupted monsters, corrupted by like the gloom or whatever you want to call that, that are more difficult than the typical normal enemies. So it's tough, man. You can't see shit, so it's really tough. You gotta be careful, man. Just traversing, so you have to take it like step by step. And so that's pretty much been like the biggest kind of discovery revelation when playing this game, is that there's a fucking third section of the game that they didn't even really talk about, or they didn't even bring up in any prior trailer or interview or anything like that. It's incredible. And I've only filled out like what feels like maybe like 10-15% of like the underground map. I think it's honestly like it's like pretty. I think I've done more. I've unlocked, I would say, like some of the towers in Hyrule, but there's so much fucking shit in this game, dude. I'm gonna be playing this probably all summer, you know what I mean? Like, even if I'm done with like the main story, although I'm trying to hold off on main story, like I said before, like with main story stuff, sometimes when I beat the game, it's hard for me to go back to it. Like if I beat the main story, it's sometimes a little hard for me to go back into it. It might be a kind of a different case with this one. And then there's the expectation of like DLC. What are they even gonna do with the DLC? Like, what are they gonna do? What could they possibly add to this? You know what I mean? It's already so expansive. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of crazy. It's been yeah, it's been an incredible experience for sure. Um, just discovering like that underground section. There's like a whole new world down there. So I'm probably gonna just keep doing that. Just get stuck down there, get killed a bunch of times, that sort of thing. So that's really been the biggest thing that I've sort of come across so far in this game. Another thing is the enemy types that I've come across. Like these ones, I didn't really, with the trailers we got some, we got some images of some of the new enemy types. Like there was like this is like a different type of bokoblin. They got like a horn on their head. There looks to be some like Lionels that look a little different. Like that, you kind of had that going for it, but there's like a whole bunch of other ones. There's the Gleox. So far, I've come across a ice Gleok that I've died to a couple of times. Dude, I have no idea. How am I supposed to kill that thing? You know what I mean? I think I'm just gonna have to construct. I'm thinking that the way that I have to kill that is to construct, you know, using Ultra Hand and constructing some kind of like tank weapon thing. You know what I mean? That's sort of that's what I'm thinking is how you have to fight, because I have no idea. I mean, I guess I could like fly from above and try to like hit it from above and try to arrow it down, but I don't know, that's gonna be tough. I haven't even attempted to fight that thing yet. So yeah, the new enemy types. There's the Gloom, which are these like creepy fucking hands that come after you that kind of remind me of a Floor Masters, from the older games, that they just kill you instantly, really. So you really have to get away as quickly as you can. And the trees, they're the trees kind of just like those guys just popped out of nowhere, and they just kind of like they freaked me out at first, because I was just like, I don't even what the fuck is this, but there are these trees that come to life basically, and they try to kill you. And the only way of defeating them is like setting them on fire. So that was coming across those for the first time was something. That was an experience for sure, and it was pretty funny. It was just like, I don't even, what even what even is this? Like, is there a thing inside the tree, or is it just the tree? So the different enemy types, that's been fun. I would say I've had some really I mentioned this a little bit ago, but I've had a few moments where I've just sort of been like, jaw dropped, like some dropping moments in this game. So I'll mention a few of them. One of them was like, this is sort of earlier on, like this was sort of combined with the fact that I discovered the depths. I was like exploring around, and then I come across, there's a part where you're able to ascend up back into the land of Hyrule, right? And then so I do that, and then somehow I end up in the Korok Forest. I'm like, what the fuck? How did I end up here? And then you have to kind of go through this section where you have to. I was like, there's this gloom that's inside of the Deku Tree, which is that feels very much like a throwback to Ocarina, right? Where you have to go into the Deku Tree and kill, take care of the monsters and stuff. So there's this gloom at the bottom of the Deku Tree, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to kill this. I had to do a few attempts with attempting to kill them. I basically just like bomb arrowed them a bunch of times, and I was like, okay. And then from the gloom, Phantom Ganon came out. I was like, oh shit, no way, that's fucking sick. And so then I had a fight with Phantom Ganon inside the Deku Tree. That was so cool. That was such a cool fight. The fight was like pretty difficult. I eventually got the hang of it. Like he had some movesets, but it was just mostly the fact that there was also gloom around you, so that if you stepped on the gloom, or if you stayed too long on there, it would end up depleting your health, and then also he would come after you kind of at the same time. So it was a little difficult at first managing it, but once he got his moveset down, I kind of got a hang of it. and I was able to defeat him. But it's just such a cool little experience, right? Just the fact that you are in the Deku Tree, and then you're fighting Phantom Ganon in the Deku Tree. It's just such a cool, it's you got little tidbits there of both alluding to prior games, and then also just that kind of experience of like, whoa, what the fuck is this? This is like kind of a new thing, and like Phantom Ganon, that's sick. So I think that was a lot of fun, just kind of going through that. I'm trying to think what else has sort of like come up. There was a I mean, the whole sequence where, like, I'm trying to, like, 'cause this was literally yesterday where I went through, like, this sequence where it was, like, I went through, like, so many emotions at the same time, where I went from, like, frustration to, like, fear to, like, horror, and then to, like, relief, and then to, like, just this, like, sense of, like, ecstasy, or, like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on, you know what I mean? That it was a whole sequence, it was just it was so cool going through that. I kind of want to save that for next time, because I feel that I'll be a little more coherent just discussing that. But really, it's this whole game so far has been just an incredible experience, and I can't wait to keep playing it. Like, it's really been the only thing that I've been thinking about, honestly, for the last few days. I've had some really like profound moments with this game so far, in terms of like experiencing just the highs, some incredible highs and some lows, but it's been a roller coaster, man, and I can't wait to dive back into it. Really, it's for the last couple of weeks. It's been a great past few weeks, honestly. It's been a great like season, or it's been a great time for me personally in terms of gaming. We had the Xenoblade DLC. I loved that. It was a fantastic sort of conclusion, send off to that series, and then now I'm into this game where it's been just this incredible gaming experience that it really gives you so much freedom to do whatever the hell you want, and then it really just sort of I guess not values, what's the word, it rewards you for doing just random shit, you know what I mean? It rewards you for going into the caves and the depths and finding all of these like items and landmarks and having these experiences. So it's been a great few weeks for gaming in general. So I've been having quite a time with that. So next time, probably next weekend, or this upcoming weekend, probably talk a bit more. So that'll probably be the end of this part for this week. Alright, it is now May 21st. It is the second part of this week's episode. I probably don't have a whole lot to talk about this time around, but I mean, it's just such a nice fucking day out, man. I'm just chilling. I'm just vibing, and I was able to find the time to record something, and I felt that today was just, or right now in particular, was nice, man. I feel relaxed. I am a little tired right now. I feel a little lethargic. It just happens whenever, regardless of how much, even if I take like a sip or whatever of alcohol, the next day, man, I just feel this kind of brain fog going on today, I mean, I feel fine, I feel good, but I am tired, you know what I mean? It's just that, like, not quite a hangover. I've never really had a hangover. I've just had headaches after drinking the night before, or drinking the day before, really. It just lingers, and it's a little frustrating, but I feel better than I did earlier in the morning, so that's why I decided to record right now, in the afternoon. It's a lovely afternoon. Weather is like perfect right now. It's like 70 degrees. It's got a nice breeze going. It's perfect. It's real nice out. So to catch up on a few things, since it's been a little while since I've talked about basketball, a lot has happened. We're now in the conference finals, and right now in the Western Conference Finals, the Nuggets are up 3-0 on the Lakers. So that series is, I'd say that series is pretty much over. I've been sort of out of it in the sense that I haven't tuned in to every game. I've watched bits and pieces of the game while it was live, and then I caught up with the highlights later on. I just haven't, I haven't watched an entire game all the way through as of late. So maybe I'll do that tonight with Boston and Miami, which is Miami currently holds a 2-0 lead over Boston, which is crazy to me. I mean, just I'll touch upon the Nuggets Lakers. I'm not super surprised by it. The Nuggets are just an incredibly strong team. I think it's sort of it's sort of what I anticipated in the sense. I felt that actually no, let me correct that. I think they haven't necessarily proven themselves since Jokic has started to get his accolades, his MVPs and whatnot. I think that the Nuggets haven't necessarily been able to, go over the hump of becoming, actual contenders because of injuries, and the big ones being like Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. in the last couple of seasons, right? And so they weren't able to overcome those humps. But this year they got everybody, man. They got the squad, and it's cool. It's cool to see the team succeeding. It's awesome to see Jokic, deserving the flowers. I think because they do have a really good team. It's just the fact that they haven't been able to overcome the humps of those injuries, and Jokic is really kind of left on his own. I've talked about how last season the Nuggets were essentially without Jokic they were one of the worst teams in the league, and with him they were a playoff team, which is insane. So he deserved. I think he very much deserved his MVP last year. And this year, it's just that they've got a full team. They're one of the best offenses in the league. Their defense isn't the strongest, but I feel like they've really picked it up during the playoffs, just based on what I've seen from their play. I feel they've tightened up on defense. They've especially against LA, they've caused a lot of turnovers and shit like that. I think that I'm seeing a lot more activity and shit. So. They're turning things on both ends, but especially on the offense, with Jokic running things on that side of the ball, they're just cooking. You know what I mean? And they very much have a strong command in the series. It's over, right? It's either going to be a sweep or a gentleman's sweep from what I'm expecting. And then I think it's just sort of anticipating how things are going to be in the finals for them, right? The thing with the Miami and the Boston series, obviously huge. The fact that Miami was able to steal both road games, which is crazy to me. And I'm going to talk about their run in a little bit, but I think Boston is. I don't think they're going to go down. They're playing later tonight. I feel like I could see them, kind of pulling themselves back into the series. But we'll see, man. It's just the fact that Miami was able to go in on the road and take both games is pretty astonishing. But also just their run this year has been incredible. I don't think in my lifetime, or in the time that I've spent watching basketball. I don't think I've ever seen a run like this from, an eighth seed, from a team that was on the brink of elimination. Man, they were almost knocked out by the Bulls. It was crazy. And then for them to be resilient and to be able to, stick together. And they're also not at full strength either. Tyler Hero's injured. Oladipo's injured. Bam is playing through an injury. Like, they're a banged up team, but they're just able to pull through. Just like, whatever. Heat culture, whatever the fuck. Shit that I kind of made fun of earlier this year. But they're pulling together, man. It's incredible to watch. So, and I don't dislike any of the players really on the Heat. Honestly, like, there's not really, like, Jimmy is he's sort of a antagonizer. He can very much get shit. He can get riled up for sure. He gets, if someone on the other team riles him up, then it's just like he's gonna go for, he's gonna cook you on the other side. So I think, him, that type of mentality and that type of energy is infectious, and I'm sure that brings a lot to the team itself. And then another aspect is the coaching, which is, Eric Spoelstra. He's been there for however long now, and he's just continuing to be one of the best coaches in the league. It's pretty crazy considering how many coaches in this offseason have gotten fired, right? Of course, there was Mike Budenholzer, but then right after the Sixers got eliminated, Doc Rivers, it's just like all these playoff coaches are just getting eliminated left and right, and then you got Spoelstra, who is running this, zombie crew of an NBA team, is about to lead them, potentially to the NBA Finals, an eighth seed, who was in the play-in, almost eliminated, and they're somehow here. It's just crazy. So I have to give there's a lot of props and a lot of respect to that team. It's just fun. It's fun to, I don't know. It's I mentioned like pre-playoffs that I wasn't really anticipating the Heat being able to do much. Like, I was just like, they're not really that interesting of a team. They're not that exciting to watch just because of their play style, and they're just the regular season has not shown them to be a serious team. And then they just completely turned that narrative around, and now it's just like, I don't know, it's crazy, man. If it does end up becoming Miami versus Denver, I think that's going to be a really interesting matchup. I think that's just going to be, you got one of the best offenses in the league. You got basically the runner-up MVP in Jokic and last year's MVP. And then you got this Miami team led by Jimmy Butler, who are just gonna grind it out. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be interesting how that goes. And if it does end up being that, I'm gonna be kind of conflicted. You know what I mean? Excuse me. I do want to see Jokic win his title. I think that would be great to see, just so he could, essentially just shut up just everybody, just this media narrative bullshit. Just shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Just everyone. I just just shut all those people up, because it's just so annoying hearing analysts, once in a while. I don't tune into ESPN that often, but it still pops up in my feed, what they say, and, the things that they, the takes that they make. And I get that it's just for generating views and, generating conversation and shit like that. But it's just, it's frustrating. It's annoying. Or do I want to see Jimmy Butler win a ring with this undermanned and heavily underrated Miami team? You know what I mean? It's just you got the underdog, and then you kind of got an underdog too with the number one seed in the Nuggets. Despite the fact what they've proven so far, their playoff performance during this season, it's just they're people still are not giving them the flowers that they deserve, because they just haven't shown themselves to win in the past. But I just think it's sort of almost I don't know. It's it's going to be interesting for sure. I think this is going to be, of course, last year, of course, my Warriors, and they were able to, pull off a win and get their rings, but this year and then this year's championship, I'm anticipating it might be Miami, but I feel like Boston might still be able to make it a competitive series. We'll see. If it does end up being Miami, Denver, I think that'll be probably one of the more interesting um, championship series since Milwaukee and Phoenix. I think it's great. Look, listen, I'm grateful as a Warriors fan to have been a part of this kind of whole dynasty run that they've had in the last 10 years. I'm also really happy to see a lot of these teams that haven't necessarily been to the finals get there and be a part of some really interesting and fun matchups. I was a big fan of. I thought that the Milwaukee Phoenix series was really fun. I thought there were some really great games. I'm still thinking about like Game 5 because that was like one of the best finals games that I've seen, really, which is kind of wild to say. You got the Giannis alley oop and shit like that. So you don't know what to expect. So I'm hoping to see that finals come through. I think will be really interesting. And then I guess we'll see how the Miami Boston series turns out. If Miami goes up 3-0, it's over, right? I feel like Boston might. I feel like they're gonna come out swinging. I feel like they might be able to pull off a win for Game 3. So I think it's possible that they'll make it competitive. You know what I'm saying? I think there's a lot of potential there still. So yeah, that's kind of my that's sort of where my headspace is at in terms of the finals. I haven't really been super tuned in, but I'm happy to see how things have been going. There's been some really, I've caught up on the highlights and I've seen, some of the playoff performances, like with Jamal Murray going off and like scoring like 30 points in the first half of Game 3. So I've been, I've watched some of those highlights and it seems like it's been a really exciting week or so for basketball. So, once the finals start up, I'll probably be tuned in. If it was going to be Lakers Celtics, oof, I don't know if I would have been watching, man. I'd probably have been just kind of, I might have been tuned out a bit. Maybe I would have just been, I'll probably maybe just hop in once in a while, but I'd say I would have not been super interested in watching, that series. So, I like how things are, projecting so far. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, Tears of the Kingdom. Let's jump back right into that. I've been playing that all day today. It's just been nonstop Tears this whole day, man. It's been a good time though. It's been exploring new shit, just finding finding shrines and going spelunking in caves and in the depths and everything like that. It's been a really good time. I finished my first dungeon yesterday, and that was a lot of fun. It was a fun little experience. It's not quite. I know in the interviews and stuff they called them a dungeon, and it is essentially a dungeon, but it's just not, it's not the same as traditional mainline Zelda games. It's the formula and the style is much more akin to the Divine Beasts in Breath of the Wild, right? I think just the way things are set up, it's very much kind of a Divine Beast, but in a different form, basically, which is fine because I enjoyed the Divine Beasts. I think they were fun. They are a bit short, but I think a lot of I'd argue that for the Divine Beasts in Breath of the Wild, the ascension or the way to get to the dungeon itself, I would consider that part of the experience. You know what I mean? And I'd make the same argument in this case for the first dungeon that I did, which was the Wind Temple. the kind of the venture, the way you get there, is a really cool and really fun sort of fun progression. I think that it's they set that up really in a really cool and kind of captivating manner, and I'm anticipating that the other dungeons, I'm not sure how many there are. I heard there was like 8 or something like that. I'm hoping that the other ones are kind of, in a similar manner, but maybe just kind of, tweak some of the details and stuff. But I really enjoyed it. I thought that whole experience, I thought that whole section of the game was really fun. And it's short. Like, it's a relatively short experience in terms of the doing the actual dungeon and figuring out like the puzzles and whatnot. But I still think that it was pretty cool. I liked it. So that's sort of where I'm at in terms of the main story. I haven't really done too much else. I picked up like one of the memory tiers, right? Essentially the memories of this game, and so far I have like 4, I think 4 or 5. And I think I mentioned this last time as well, but the way I'm kind of approaching them is I'm trying to follow along and recollect those memories in the way that it makes sense with the narrative. Because I think skipping around this time around doesn't really make too much sense, because I think if you have sort of a through line with a narrative, I think that will be for a much more satisfying experience if I'm following along with how the narrative was sort of laid out. So I like how I'm going about it at this point. So I have picked up a memory sort of on accident, not on accident, but I picked up a tier very early on in the game. I just found it, in this one section of the map, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I realized that this is part of the pieces of the puzzle, and combining all of them so you get a cohesive narrative. But I think jumping around from point to point, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter how you go about it. You can kind of do it in a non-linear way, but I feel, again, it will be just a much more satisfying experience, and you have a better understanding, or you just have a better appreciation of the narrative if I go from piece to piece, sort of in the way that the story and the plot is laid out, and so I kind of like how I'm progressing so far at the moment. But yeah, it's I don't have too much else to really touch upon. It's just been a fantastic game. I've been having so much fun with it. Again, I know, what a surprise. Yeah, I don't know how much more. I don't know what else I can really talk about. Honestly, it's just a lot of fun. So I'll probably I might just be repeating myself, for every other podcast where I talk about this game, or I'll just provide a summary of my experiences once I finish the game itself. I don't know. It'll just depend on how I feel. But yeah, at this point in the game, I've been really enjoying it. I like the story. I think it's a little more engaging than Breath of the Wild. I think that there's a bit more weight. Again, Zelda, there's not a whole lot of, I don't feel the plot or the stories for most of them are super deep or anything like that, but I think I find this one to be a bit more engaging. I think there's the intrigue, the mystery, the subtext, the quote unquote lore of it is a little more engaging and a little more interesting than what was found in Breath of the Wild. So I think that they've done a good job so far. So I'm excited to see how things carry out in the rest of the game. Anyways, that's probably going to do for this week. I appreciate you listening as always. This has been Save the Semantics, signing off.